What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, holy crap. I had to take some time to go ahead and put this video together because I don't like to jump to conclusion on a lot of things when it comes to my criticism or my official reviews of certain things and aspects of a game. It takes me some weeks of playtime to come to a complete conclusion. That's why in the beginning phase, typically, you just see me kinda just giving first impressions and feelings, emotions about how I feel about a game before I actually start deep diving into specific topics. But today, I want to talk about probably one of the coolest things that has been shipped alongside Battlefield 6. There's a lot of cool stuff that came with Battlefield 6, but I gotta be real. For me personally, this mode is, I don't want to say it's better than when, Battlefield 1 introduced operations, which kind of, boiled down to having breakthrough permanently, which was great for the overall Battlefield franchise, but it's up there. It's definitely up there when it comes to probably one of the best modes we have seen in a very long time. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, before we go ahead and dive on deep into the topic, if you guys do enjoy what you hear today, don't forget, subscribe and hit that bell. We post daily here, 2 times actually, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are interested, got to link that channel down in the description of this video. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, one last thing before we actually get into the topic of the game mode. I do want to showcase this to you guys so you know what's happening today. As you can see right here from Battlefield Bulletin, Battlefield 6 Season 1 trailer goes live tomorrow, which is basically today because the video goes live on the 22nd. October 22nd, new look at Blackwell Fields map. And again, for anybody that's curious, Blackwell Fields is supposed to be one of the more larger scale maps that's going to be introducing, again, jets and helicopters, tanks, all of the above. So hopefully it will be good for the overall community. We haven't really seen too much footage. We have seen some leaked footage, but I don't think we can really compare until we get hands-on. So hopefully this will be what everybody is expecting. But I will have a video about this overall trailer the day afterwards, probably on the 23rd, but I will be watching it on stream again today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys want to see my first initial impressions before we make some, content about it, by all means tune on in. But let's hop back into the actual discussion of the game mode, guys. Escalation. Ladies and gentlemen, this game mode is absolutely genius, and it's a perfect twist on what makes Conquest so cool. Just, kind of elevated a little bit. And it's not going to really take over Conquest because, Escalation kind of turns into a very fast-paced, hectic mode that, really condenses itself down. And Conquest is all about, just overall map control, no flags are going away. You can kind of just hold certain locations and force and funnel enemies into certain areas. But in Escalation, like I said, it takes the idea of what Conquest is about and changes it up a bit. Again, for anybody that's curious about the game mode or doesn't, really know how it works or you haven't tried it yet, I'm sure a lot of you guys already have because the game has been out for a while now. But if you didn't, for those who don't know, basically it starts off like a regular Conquest match, except I do believe there are more flag locations, so it's a lot more to the map itself. And basically, the whole goal is to hold as many flags as you possibly can around the map. And every single time that you fill up your meter, basically both teams have a meter, whoever has the most control of the map gets to fill that meter. And if both teams have an equal amount of flags, that meter doesn't go anywhere. It's in a tie, and someone has to cap another flag to begin filling up that meter again. And if you fill it up all the way, your team wins a point. And if the enemy team, fills it up all the way, they get a point. First to 3 win. And basically, every single time you fill it up, a flag gets removed from the overall battlefield. So it starts off as a large battle, and as you or the enemy team progresses, the map gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And on top of that, as you guys go ahead and progress, basically more vehicles get added to the mix. So you start off with more of a minuscule amount of vehicles, and as each team wins a round, you get more and more and more vehicles, making for a lot of freaking chaos. But ladies and gentlemen, this right here is exactly why I love this mode so much. Don't get me wrong. I love modes like Breakthrough a ton, and I enjoy that, kind of defensive line combat. But what makes Conquest so unique and special to me and my favorite game mode in Battlefield is just the freedom to roam and explore different areas of the map without having, again, a complete utter front lines. Of course, it happens in Conquest. But you're able to, flank to different locations, different flags, hold different zones, and the whole mentality is, you don't have to capture every flag. You just want majority of the control, and again, to find a way to funnel enemies into certain locations to make it easier for your team to progress and hold a good front lines. And that's very engaging because it's constantly switching. People are constantly flanking. It's constant, push, defend. It's really good. But this game mode takes that same mentality. You still have to go in strategically. You still have to hold certain flags and, keep certain map controls and, again, funnel enemies into certain locations. But as I stated, it intensifies it because it always removes a flag every single time you win. So you go in with that same mentality, but it's like it's times 2 when it comes to having to constantly think about the rotation, because in Conquest you don't lose any flags. So it's just kind of a steady logic that's going on. If I hold this flag, and this flag, we'll have constant control. And if we lose one of those flags, that's fine. I'll just spend the majority of my time pushing for that flag. Or if it's too many teammates pushing that flag, maybe I'll, hyper prioritize defending another flag so we don't lose that while they're pushing that one. Pretty simplistic stuff. Not simple, of course. It takes a lot of thought, but it's way more logical at times, whereas in Escalation, as I stated, flags are constantly being removed, so you might be holding a really solid location, but now the flags are shifting, the enemies have more locations held, which means you have to get up and move. You can't just sit there on defense anymore, or else you're going to lose the round. The longer you wait while not holding the majority of flags, the quicker you're losing the match. So you're constantly shifting around the map as flags are getting taken down here and there, more vehicles are coming in, causing more chaos, and again, the player count is still the same amount as Conquest, so you'll see a crap ton of players coming and pouring through from certain flags. It's wild. And as I stated, it still forces you to think about how you're rotating around. You might be down 2, right, from the enemy team absolutely stomping you out, but if you're holding 2 of the most important flags, by the time they win 2 rounds, now they're at a permanent disadvantage. If your team can hunker down and lock those flags down, then you're going to start winning some rounds back, and you get to a 2-2 situation. You see what I'm saying here? I'm not, the best thing I could think of is it's Conquest on crack. That's basically what it is. It's a turned up version of Conquest. And it's very engaging when I'm looking for that extra rush. That same mentality is going into Conquest. Not breakthrough levels when it comes to action, because breakthrough, let's be real, it's very insane. Again, everybody is basically in 2 different locations, so everybody's funneling into everybody, and it becomes completely chaotic. I enjoy that at times, but as I stated, I enjoy a bit more freedom when it comes to Conquest. But basically, this is the hyperactive version of Conquest that I've been always looking for. It's exactly what I want out of the Battlefield experience. It still gives me what I'm looking for when it comes to the freedom of exploring and holding different flags and having to, outsmart the opponents with your spawn locations. But it's making it more enhanced and crazy. We don't even need a higher player count on all the Conquest maps. We don't, because it's right here. This game mode presents that. You have the same player count, but with the shrinking flag locations, the chaos just becomes overwhelming at times, but it's fun. That's why a lot of people play Breakthrough, because of that overwhelming feeling of just so much chaos coming into your face, but it's a different type of overwhelming. And for those Conquest players who love the flow of Conquest, if you're kind of craving something a little bit more fast-paced, but you just can't, stand how fast-paced Breakthrough can be, this is it. This will give you the exact fix that you're looking for, with a cranked up speed to it that's not too overwhelming, but not too slow. And I know I already mentioned this, but I can't help myself, because it really is the best part about Conquest, having to think about your moves. Breakthrough boils down to just playing defense on, one of 3 to 4 lanes, right? But in Conquest, you're constantly trying to strategize, think. Flags are being taken from both different sides of the team, and you always have to, constantly think, what are you going to do each time a flag is taken? No matter which team actually took it. It's constant thinking. But Escalation cranks that up. You're thinking a lot. Because, again, as flags get removed and different locations become hot zones, you have to think of how you're going to maneuver around. Which flags will be better to hold. Maybe you should lose some to gain others. Maybe you should just sit and lock down on a position because you don't really have to do too much. It's a lot of brain power. But I really enjoy that, because that's what I've always enjoyed about Battlefield, especially in Conquest, It's not just so straightforward. There's a lot of thinking and maneuvering and strategizing before you even go into combat that, takes place. That is very fun, on top of just, shooting people. And this makes you think even harder than Conquest. In my opinion, this is the type of innovation this game needs. I don't know about you guys, but when it comes down to Battlefield, I don't want to see a lot of these small modes that they're planning for the future of all these seasons. I know we're going to get a search and destroy mode and some other smaller stuff. Not bad for now, but I feel like going into the new year, we should be focusing on more modes that are like this, about what Battlefield is about. Our core experiences should be enhanced. It still kind of bums me out that Breakthrough was still the dumbed down version of Operation, and we just can't get back to Operations again. Imagine if they spent more time into building Operations instead of a BR. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why EA wants a BR. I don't completely agree because, I like the Battlefield core experience. I'm still going to try it. We'll see if it's good, and it will be healthy for the overall Battlefield franchise if it is successful. Maybe not long term, because EA might say, maybe we should put more focus into this than our core multiplayer experience, which will get bad if that is the case. But, only time can tell. We can't, actually talk about this stuff now because we have no clue. But imagine if instead of a BR, they spent all that time putting together Operations, and they launched this game with Operations and Escalation, basically having, again, the enhanced versions of both Conquest and Breakthrough, even though Operations started Breakthrough, but still, you get what I'm saying here. We would have the core versions, Conquest, Breakthrough, and then the enhanced versions, longer versions of Breakthrough, which is Operations with an actual kind of backstory playing across multiple different maps, and then Escalation, Conquest, but turned up and made extremely, fast-paced compared to the original version. Man, that would be how I would personally approach making new modes within Battlefield, but that's just me. But ladies and gentlemen, please go down in the comment section. Let me know if you like this brand new game mode, or if I'm just crazy. Do you think it's bad? I just think it's really cool. It's a nice twist on Conquest, and I respect them for actually trying to make something creative with a mode that is made for Battlefield. Not trying to, come up with new things that have nothing to do with the core identity of Battlefield. Again, like the small modes they're about to introduce, but actually innovating off of something that just basically the whole community loves. That was a very good move. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here, actually 2 times a day, as I stated in the beginning of this video. Once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So, of course, subscribe and hit that bell to stay notified. And last but not least, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are interested, got a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.